Hey, what's going on, guys? Aarava here, and welcome back to an episode of my F1 2018 career mode, episode number 15 today for the Singapore Grand Prix. If you guys did miss the previous episode at the Italian Grand Prix, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. But this is officially the first commentary video I am doing whilst back from my trip to the Belgian Grand Prix. If you didn't know, the last 5 episodes, I think, of F1 career mode have been pre-recorded well in advance, commentated well in advance, and so I had no idea how those videos went down. I actually had YouTube deleted off my phone the entire time I was out there at Spa because I wanted to really refresh my mind. But coming back here, I've got to say, honestly, guys, thank you so much, so much for the support on the last couple episodes, nay, the entire series so far. But, you know, especially, it was a little bit nerve-wracking not knowing how the videos were going to do over the last couple of days, but it's great to see they did well. You know, apologies I couldn't really react to the comments or anything like that and, like, you know, heart the comments up because, like I said, I deleted YouTube off my phone because I just wanted a complete refresh in my mind. I'm back now, refreshed, ready to go for the rest of the year, pretty much. But yeah, it was really good to see that you guys enjoyed, especially the episode of Hungary, as much as I did to commentate it. That was honestly, yeah, if you haven't seen the Hungarian Grand Prix episode, I would highly recommend you see that. But, I mean, definitely if you missed any of them, they're in an official playlist anyway, so you can catch up. But here we are then for the Singapore Grand Prix. Going to be a big, hard slogfest. This one, obviously, Singapore on the longest tracks on the calendar. In terms of performance going into this weekend with Haas, you can see we've plateaued a little bit from the Italian Grand Prix. McLaren looked to have made a big step up there from Italy to Singapore here, and so they're as close as they were pretty much at the Hungarian Grand Prix. And if you remember, Alonso got a podium there at the Hungarian Grand Prix, and he got ahead of us for the entire race. So we'll see if McLaren are going to be equally as strong there with Alonso's AI at least. I'm not too sure about Van Dorn's, but every single team is slowly but surely going to start bunching up. Obviously, we get to the end of the season, and then things might change a little, but for now, it all just seems to be bunching up, which is, in theory, going to just create better and better racing as all the cars are a lot closer. So, going to be interesting to see how this one goes. It's definitely a bit more of an endurance race in terms of the tyre management, and the fuel management will be probably for the first time a very tricky thing to do if we're going to be underfueling the car and whatnot. But nonetheless, we'll just have to see how things shake out then. So let's head into practice and see how that goes first.
A very warm welcome to all of you joining us here in Singapore as the clock ticks down towards the green light. A lot of focus is naturally on the drivers, but it's really important for the mechanics to get everything right as well, as one little mistake could cost the team and one of their drivers the race result.
These guys are so meticulous and they train and perfect everything that they do. Without question, they feel the pressure in the same way as the drivers, and they share the responsibility to ensure that the car makes it to the end of the race.
So into practice for the Singapore Grand Prix. Rather odd, obviously FP1 is in the daytime and then nighttime comes for FP2, and then even FP3 is a little bit of sunshine. So kind of odd to see Singapore. You kind of never get a grasp of what actually is around the Singapore circuit. But yeah, in FP1 the car felt quite horrible actually. I'm not going to lie. I was quite shocked about how the car felt in that first session. But thankfully, once the sun went down, the nighttime came out for FP2. The car was feeling pretty okay as per usual. I mean, it kind of felt almost similar to Hungary. It had good mechanical grip. So I'm actually quite happy with where we are, and I think, like Hungary, myself and Magnussen can have a very good one. But of course, first we have to see how Saturday goes, so let's head into that and see what the one-lap pace is like.
It's time for us to settle down and the drivers below to get fired up. Once again, welcome to Singapore as we get ready for the green light and the start of what should be a fantastic qualifying session. This is the kind of track that eats rear tyres for breakfast, or so I'm told by more experienced drivers than myself.
No matter how good a driver is at managing their throttle application to limit rear slip, they can't always overcome a car that's inherently bad at looking after its rear tyres. Here we have a lot of low-speed corner exits, which means a whole load of energy, heat and tyre wear.
So starting off qualifying here in Q1 on a set of ultra soft tyres, so that's the middle compound of tyre. The ones available to us are the hyper soft, the pink wall tyre, the purples are the ultra softs, and then the soft compound tyre. So we go 2 steps down from the ultra soft, and so it's a 3-step difference from the fastest compound and the slowest one available this weekend. So that's going to be very interesting for the race. But across the line in Q1, and we get through obviously way down in P12 actually, and compared to our teammate in a very lofty P2. So obviously Q1 really doesn't matter for the top 15, but still to see K-Mag up there in P2 was quite something. But of course, quite a few of the top teams I think used ultra soft tyres with me and went slower. Now we're onto the pink wall of tyre. Not really much difference you can see in the colour, but they are definitely the ultra soft tyres, and so going nice and fast now on this flyer. In terms of the setup we got at Singapore here, I mentioned earlier, it's a bit like Hungary in a way in terms of the performance I think of the car is going to be. I assume McLaren is going to be strong around here, and to kind of counteract that, I've got a bit more downforce than probably Magnussen's got on the default setup here, so we'll be a little bit slower in a straight line maybe to other cars, but faster in the corners. But saying that, in the corners, we have a major issue there in Q2, and that is our qualifying day over. Out of Q2, front right tyre off, and we are now going to start from what is, I think, minimum P15 if there aren't any grid penalties. But that is it. That is the end. Magnussen gets knocked out in P13 anyway. So I finish up in P15 and ironically I only end up 2 places behind my teammate. He's had a shocker. I don't know what on earth Kevin's done there because he was flying high in P2 and Q1. Obviously people are now using the fast compound tyres. Apart from, you can see the Mercedes of Bottas. But still, really, really bad stuff there then in qualifying. Really our first major error in qualifying, I think. Obviously, we had a few errors here and there in the races, but in qualifying, we haven't really had a horrid time apart from maybe the Hungarian Grand Prix, you would say. So, actually, quite funnily enough, the place where I spoke about being very similar to this circuit in terms of, I think, McLaren and us as Haas will have the same kind of performance as we did in Hungary. Obviously, qualifying didn't go amazing in Hungary there. I ended up with a crash in Q3 in Hungary, and now here I crashed in Q2, but that was a really unfortunate error. You can see, just playing back that clip in a bit of a slow-mo here, hitting the right wall, and I just can't get the car and the steering wheel turned round enough for the car to not hit the wall on the left. It's quite a narrow path anyway, and then it's just a straight clean off tear of the wheel and the tether, so that's really unfortunate. And we get an interview after qualifying then to take us through what was obviously not an ideal day here on the race weekend.
Well, things didn't really go your way today. Tell us what happened. You left some bodywork out there on the track. Were you struggling for grip?
So this entire time on purpose, guys, I've not been wanting to click no comment because I know you can, and a lot of you guys have been telling me to do that in the comments. But you can see I've done it here for the very first time because really these questions are all going to be about that crash, but they're unfortunately not as specific and kind of as... how do you say, kind of context giving as I would have liked them to. So in my opinion, really the best answer to give is a no comment answer in both of these questions cases.
You didn't make it to the end. Was it the car or did you just push it a bit too far?
But obviously, yeah, a lot of you guys have been telling me that I can do no comment. Most of the time I've been wanting to purposely just kind of answer something to give a bit of a reaction. But this time round I felt there really was no upside to answering a question about that crash. That was just my fault. And honestly, in real life, I think if I crashed out like that in a qualifying session, I probably would kind of pull like a bit of a Kimmy and just not really answer too much and just kind of get on with focusing myself onto the race, which is exactly what we're going to do now. So let's focus onto Sunday and try and turn this thing around.
Well, thanks anyway.
As the sun sets over the South China Sea, the sport that never sleeps is alert and raring to go. Welcome, under the bright lights of the Marina Bay Circuit, to another Singapore Grand Prix. It's a very long, very physical lap, this one, and really there's not much in the way of margin for error. So we have a bit of an endurance race for you tonight. It's a 3.1 mile lap here at the Marina Bay Street Circuit with 47% taken at full throttle. It's hot, humid and bumpy around the 13 lefts and the 10 rights of mostly slow corners. But we should see speeds of up to 200 miles per hour along the Raffles Boulevard. Also here, of course, is Anthony Davidson. Now, I want to ask you about Lewis Hamilton. That was a great win in the last race. Could they keep that momentum going this weekend?
There are never any guarantees in this business, but certainly the performance last time out would have boosted their confidence coming into this one.
Well then, after an exciting qualifying session yesterday, let's take a look at how the cars line up. An immense lap from Lewis Hamilton yesterday puts him on pole position, with Sebastian Vettel starting alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Ricciardo, Verstappen, Valtteri Bottas, and Raikkonen, Alonso, Hülkenberg, Sainz, and Sergio Perez, Ocon, Magnussen, Sergei Sirotkin, and Van Dorn. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. The engineer, Stroll, Charles Leclerc, and Pierre Gasly. Hartley and Marcus Ericsson rounds off the grid. Now it's almost time to lights out, so let's go down to the track.
So here we are on the grid for the Singapore Grand Prix. Unfortunately, no penalties to talk about ahead of us to help us out, so we're still down in P15. I think Magnussen actually gained 1 place with Van Dorn having a penalty, so he's now P12, I think. So he has a bit of an advantage. The strategy here today is saying a 1-stop for us, using that set of soft compounder tyres and then ultra softs, and then not even using hyper softs. So I'm a little bit reluctant to say yes to that strategy because the soft tyre is 3 steps down from the hyper softs, and even compared to the ultra soft is 2 steps down, and I just don't know how fast they're going to be. So I'm going to swap that tire set around. We're going to start on ultra soft tires and leave ourselves very open and flexible, because by starting on the middle tire, I can go either way. I can go more aggressive to the hypers, or I can go more conservative to the soft tire and go to the end and see how the race plays out. But I think that's going to be the clever strategy for us today, starting from a bit further back than where we are. Obviously, if we did qualify in Q3, we have to start on the set we did in Q2, but we're open to doing whatever. And honestly, like I said, I just don't know how it's going to do, because this is a very odd Grand Prix where you have such big leaps between tyre compounds that surely there's going to be such a big delta time between fresh hypers, for example, and a bit worn soft tyres. So we'll see how everything pans out here in what is going to be a very, very long night race here at the Singapore Grand Prix. 31 laps ahead of us. We go to 5 red lights for round number 15 of the 2018 Career Mode Season 1, and we're underway. It's a good start for us. It's been a bit of a poor one for Magnussen. He's held up by the Force India there of Sergio Perez. We dive it down the inside of Perez, and oh my god, nearly a T-bone moment there between the Mexican and the McLaren there of, I think that was Van Dorn. Yeah, Van Dorn sent it down my inside, albeit that was a bit of an audacious dive from me, but I didn't expect Perez to completely close the door on me, and he almost sideswiped me in terms of I was nearly perpendicular to him, and it was actually Van Dorn's car that pushed him the correct way. So very odd way to start the Grand Prix, a very dramatic way. And also now you can see Sergei Sorokin, the Williams, attacking me down the inside. The Williams car, it's not as piss poor as it was in round 1, of course, but still, I'm quite surprised the Williams tried to attack me there. But like I said in qualifying, I've got a higher downforce setup than the usual default is, and I feel like the Williams car has probably just got default. Obviously, Mercedes engine in the back of that thing, so pretty good in straight line. So yeah, I mean, not totally surprised, but it definitely still took me aback a little bit, as rather than looking behind me, I want to look forward this race. But at the moment, we're only in P14 now. Or we might make it P13 as we send it down the inside now of Sergio Perez into the hairpin, catch him napping a little bit, chasing after Stoffel Van Dorn, and so the man we had an almost crash collision with into turn 1. We're going neck and neck with him now as he gives us a good run for the money onto the next corner. So the Force India may not have the downforce there, but the traction was, and so I was quite surprised actually that it started to work hard to make that move done. But we are indeed finally up into P13. Now we can look ahead onto the Papaya McLaren, nearly said McLaren Honda there, McLaren Renault, I'm too used to it. But now we catch up to Van Dorn on the next lap 2, and in the same place now, finding the momentum through that left and then right, and then the left of the hairpin, just through that left to right section, just getting the power down a little bit earlier, it seems, than AI, and able to send down the inside of Van Dorn then, and we're up into P12. So I've seen, places, some favourite places for the AI to make passes in previous career modes, and it looks like here at the moment I found my favourite place at the Singapore Grand Prix to do it in this Haas. So up into P12, Magnussen, it looks like on the mini-map he's just behind the top guys there, so he's made a really good first little stint there in the first 3 laps. Obviously we had a bit of a lag, but now we're trying to catch back up to Ocon, and then it will be the first Renault of Carlos Sainz. I believe Hülkenberg is the one right ahead of Magnussen, and then it's Fernando Alonso once again, being the wily old fox he is, managing to drag that McLaren a lot further up than his teammate Van Dorn. But as we come into the same place, we made the move on Van Dorn and Perez again down the inside of Esteban Ocon there, and that is definitely going to be probably my favourite place to pass around Singapore. It looks like here this night time here. I'm going to keep saying afternoon probably by mistake, but Ocon again, like with Perez, sends it down the inside, but we get it on the next right-hander, very, very close that time round to grazing the Armco barrier there, so thankfully just made the corner. There was definitely a lot of understeer in this very heavy car at the moment, with the fuel tanked up obviously for 31 laps, and you don't really realise how long the Grand Prix is until you get to about lap 7 and realise you're not even a third of the way through the Grand Prix, and it's felt like you've been about halfway through a normal Grand Prix. It really is a bit of an endurance race almost in the F1 calendar, and so really it's not a case of going flat out, it's a case of trying to be consistent and eke out your pace over the laps, I feel, at least for me, as we now try and go around the outside of Carlos Sainz. Nice and easy it does it around the outside of turn 1 there. Sainz pinched into the apex, and so we're up into P8, and up ahead Hülkenberg has just been overtaken by Magnussen, I believe, so K-Mag now up into what will be P6, so he's going really well. And so that's Alonso in P5. So that actually begs the question. I think that someone in the top flight has maybe already made a pit stop, or has had some sort of grid penalty or issue that I did not know about there. So we're going to chase after P7 now, Hülkenberg. As we go through the last corner, you can see the Ferrari at least is into the pit lane then of, I think that's Sebastian Vettel. No, it's Raikkonen. Raikkonen's in the pits as we now overtake Hülkenberg now down the inside. Hypersoft v Ultrasoft, but we've got the better grip. Remember, as the laps go on now on lap 5, the Hypersofts are going to start wearing out a lot more than the Ultras, and so my tyres will effectively become faster than everyone else's around me, as well as all the others that weren't in the top 10, including Kevin Magnussen, who is also on a set of Ultrasoft tyres. So for now, myself and my teammate are doing the exact same strategy, maybe, of opening up the Grand Prix, as K-Mag now goes down the inside with DRS open on Fernando Alonso. So K-Mag's now up into P3, P2, actually, sorry, P2. Alonso's P3, I'm P4. Remember, obviously, the top guys are making their pit stops now, so we'll have to see how this pans out really in the race, but this is really looking good in terms of, for me and Magnussen now, we are 1-2 at the Singapore Grand Prix on lap 8, and both of us now will have at least minimum, I'm thinking, 4 laps to go of just running in clean air. So whilst others get stuck in traffic maybe, we have a really good chance to just kind of eke ahead a little bit on the time delta by just, you know, lapping in clean air like this. And actually by lap 12, so literally 4 laps later like I called it, we are closing up to Magnussen. I'm starting to push hard now because I believe Magnussen might be coming in on this lap here, because my engineer was telling me to come in this lap, but I want to delay my pit stop because I've got some good pace and good rhythm on these tyres. So Magnussen comes in then from the lead of the Grand Prix to pit in. I'm going to continue on at least for maybe a lap or two's time and see what we can do there. But we were, you know, keeping Magnussen honest. I wasn't pressurising him, but I was keeping him honest at least, which is good to see, obviously, because I didn't really get a chance to see how I stacked up against Magnussen in qualifying. But he comes out then behind a Force India there, and then behind him is 2 Williams cars of Sorokin and Stroll, and behind them is Sebastian Vettel. Then you've got Red Bull, a Mercedes, and then Ferrari's Kimi Raikkonen there as well. So I think that Mercedes car must be Hamilton then behind, I'm going to guess, Daniel Ricciardo. But those guys are now behind Magnussen on track. They're behind 2 Williams cars, and so I think this is working out absolutely like a miracle strategy here for both us Haas cars. I think the top guys have been held up by traffic so much there with the 2 Williams cars and potentially other cars they've passed that we haven't seen down below on the track in the train, that myself and Magnussen, I think we've jumped all of them almost. So let's see, we're in the pit stops now, and we're going on to another set of Ultrasoft tyres, because Magnussen's done the same thing. So we're going Ultra, and then I'm going to assume that opens us up to a pretty easy 2-stop by going to Hypersofts right at the end of the Grand Prix. So me and Magnussen thinking the same thing of keeping the car nice and light and on its toes on the fastest side at the end of this race. But look at this, we're out in P2 of the Singapore Grand Prix. Magnussen still leads. Vettel's only now overtaken that Force India up into P3. Look at the minimap there. We are miles ahead of Vettel, and Magnussen's a decent amount ahead of me. So Magnussen now legitimately leads the Grand Prix. It's a legitimate 1-2 for Haas Formula 1 team right now. This is turning out to be a rather insane Grand Prix yet again. I made parallels to this might be like Hungary in terms of McLaren and Haas's performance. This is something else right now here. We're nearly halfway through the Grand Prix now. Lap 15 on to 16 now. And we are 1-2 here. Vettel's third place. You got Hamilton's Mercedes, I think, right behind him. Then you got Ricciardo, Raikkonen, Bottas and Verstappen even further back. I think Bottas had a grid penalty maybe, so he got held up. Verstappen, I think, got held up even in more traffic. And I don't even know where Fernando Alonso's gone now, because he was running with us in that section. But now we've got a yellow flag here as K-Mag is overtaken. It's Van Dorn, the man we overtaken, gone very, very slowly there. I think that might be a puncher, that looks like, because he's not kind of exploding on track with an engine failure. So a puncher there for Van Dorn, unfortunately. Maybe tried to take his tyres a bit too long there. And so Magnussen navigated him. I just about did the same around the outside there. But we've got yellow flags in that section. So maybe Van Dorn has parked up there. So with that call out, any kind of virtual safety car or anything like that, we've gone green there. And we're just finding more pace now on these fresh ultra soft tyres. So the scenario is looking really, really grand for us as a whole, as a team here today. But now the safety car has been called out here. So that is going to change a lot of things here. This might actually screw us. This actually is maybe not the best thing, because myself and Magnussen were ahead of Vettel, ahead of all those guys. They were all going to need to make one more stop, because none of them were on soft tyres. They're all on ultras, I think. So we were in 1-2, and we would have made one more pit stop to the end of the Grand Prix. Everyone else would have done the same. But now the safety cars come out. I don't know what's going to happen here, because me and Magnussen have to change tyres at some point, because we both ran ultras all race long. We have to change compound. Whereas the rest of these guys, if they're careful enough, could they spread their tyres out maybe? They've changed compounded tyres pretty much, all the top guys, the Ferrari, the Mercedes and the Red Bull. So we'll see. But this is why the safety car got called out. The Van Dorn was spun around by a Williams car, and then him and his teammate Alonso, the two McLarens, effectively make a blockade there. Van Dorn trying to do a 3-point turn in the Singapore tunnel. So that's clearly why the safety car was called out, for good reason there. As we move on now onto lap 17, under the safety car still, I think one more lap to go under the yellow flag and the slower conditions. Yeah, I'm really trying to figure out what this race is now going to pan out like. It was going to be a really simple race for us now without this safety car. It would have been me and Magnussen going to about lap, I would say, 22, hitting for hypersofts, and then we go to the end of the Grand Prix, and we're already, you know, ahead of everyone on merit and on strategy, so there wasn't any kind of catching up to do. We would have made a pit stop just like with everyone else, and we would have still been 1-2. But now that you've got Vettel on the top left to come in for the pit stop, Hamilton stayed out though, so you've got a few of the top guys coming in for a pit stop under the safety car. Some haven't, and we both have not as well. Both Haas, we have not come in for a pit stop. We're going longer because we've only just made this pit stop, remember. The safety car came out literally only a couple of laps after we made our pit stop, so really bad timing for us on this safety car. But now we're go, 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 and green. You can see how cold the tyres are, just like Silverstone. You can see I'm weaving about, trying to warm up the tyres. The only saving grace for me is, if we look behind us and on the mini-map there, Hamilton, I don't know what he's done for some reason, but he's backed up everyone after him in P3, but he's just not bothered to keep up with both of us. So now you can see through turn 1 the tyres finally heating up, but you can see there's already a good gap then between myself and Hamilton. So although I was a little bit worried about this 1-2 being lost here to these guys behind us, Hamilton, Raikkonen, it seems at the moment at the restart of this Grand Prix, 11 laps to go, we are looking pretty good on the restart, and it looks like this car just genuinely has a lot of pace around Singapore. So let's see how this pans out here. Maybe we can have a go at Magnussen in the coming laps, but of course we've got, like I said, 11 laps to go. These ultras can go a lot longer than those 11 laps, so at some point we just have to come in and decide when to come in for a set of hypersoft tyres, because we have to we both have to make a pit stop. That's the rule of Formula 1. You have to change a compounded tyre. We have not done that yet. Everyone behind us has, so that's why I'm saying Hamilton here could, if he's feeling daring enough, he could stretch those ultras all the way to the end of lap 31. And Magnussen actually comes in now on lap 20 there for the pit stop here, as we set the fast lap of the Grand Prix, because that's just how slow everyone's gone so far. Is everyone's been on the heavier fuel. The safety car comes out and changes everything there, so we'll see how that goes. But Magnussen into the pit lane then, along with, I think, the Mercedes and Ferrari there, Hamilton and Raikkonen, I think that is. But Magnussen has not made a pit stop. This is not a pit stop. This is a penalty. This is a penalty. It's got to be because of speeding under the safety car, and it's a penalty for both Magnussen and the Ferrari and the Mercedes of Hamilton. I think Hamilton made a pit stop there. Looks like he's on soft tyres now, but Raikkonen definitely did not make a pit stop there. So I think Raikkonen and Magnussen both got a penalty for speeding on the safety car. Hamilton did actually make a pit stop then onto soft tyres, and so he's going to go all the way to the end of the Grand Prix then, so he wasn't feeling confident about doing that before. But now you've got Sebastian Vettel in second place behind me. That orange car ahead of him is Van Dorn. He's been lapped, obviously, but it's Vettel on the road in second place. Behind him then are the two Alfa Romeo cars, I think that is. Then you got the Toro Rosso of Gasly, and then also Ricciardo's Red Bull car. So it's two Saubers, then the Toro Rosso, Red Bull, Williams, another Red Bull of Verstappen, and then Valtteri Bottas' Mercedes car. And that is the actual way it is on the road. The only car out of sync there is Van Dorn, who's been lapped. Everyone else is in position there. So the Saubers are having a crazy race, and onto the main straight, Vettel has made contact with Stoffel Van Dorn on the pit straight. He's broken a bit of his front wing, a large portion of his front wing, and so this is literally turning out to be a parallel of the Hungarian Grand Prix. A top man has made a crash with a lapped car. Last time out at Hungary it was a Force India. This time it's Van Dorn's McLaren, and so Vettel with major damage now. He's going to be really slow in the corners here, and so immediately Van Dorn even is trying to unlap himself. Then you got Leclerc, Gasly, Ricciardo, and then one of the Williams cars. Ericsson's come in for a pit stop then, so this is a very interesting top 10 at the moment. I really can't call it. And then behind them you got Verstappen and Bottas, but going back to Vettel there, you know, significant damage there, and through the left-hander you can see how slow he's going because Van Dorn closes up, and oh, he's hit the wall. Vettel's hit the wall. There's a huge crash now. There's a five-way crash there. I think all cars have had damage there. Leclerc's front wing's off. I think Ricciardo sustained some damage. Vettel's out of the Grand Prix. It is all kicked off here, at the Singapore Grand Prix. Another virtual safety car is out for good reason. I'm surprised not the full safety car again. I would have actually I would have preferred the full safety car, because then I could get a free pit stop here for my second stop, but I'll still get a bit of an advantage here. You can see as the safety car ends, I'm coming into the pit stop. Literally, as I enter the line there, the virtual safety car ends, so I'm not going to get the major advantage you usually get with the virtual safety car pit stop, but I still will get a bit of benefit here. But I will be going down the order, I think, because I believe Verstappen and Bottas are on a set of tyres that could take them to the end of the Grand Prix. So we're in now onto a set of hypersofts here to the end of the Grand Prix. So we'll be very fast. We've got, what's that, 8 laps to go. We're down to now P11 in this Grand Prix, because obviously everyone got bunched up with the safety car. So that's a little bit annoying and actually really gutting that I went from first place there to now what is P11, but of course Magnussen did the same thing as well. But looking at the replay now of that crash, so Vettel with front wing damage, can't make the left-hander and breaks a bit of his front wing, and then absolute chaos ensues there. The Red Bull, McLaren, Alfa Romeo, Sauber, Williams and Toro Rosso get caught up. Leclerc smashes straight into the back of Vettel. You can see Van Dorn chops across Ricciardo, it looks like, and then also I think the Toro Rosso also gets caught up a little bit. Actually, no, I think Gasly actually gets through unscathed. So Gasly managed to find his way through like a needle through a haystack there, and without any damage. But yeah, so the Alfa Romeo without a front wing, you've got the Red Bull with some damage there as well, and so all those guys will have to make pit stops. And so now as we come through on lap 23, we've caught up to this pack then that I believe is now led by Pierre Gasly. As you can see there, a few cars out of the Grand Prix, then we're down to 17 runners there. But I do believe at the moment our running order is Pierre Gasly that leads the Grand Prix. You can actually see that on the mini-map there. If you look close enough on the bottom left, as we overtake Hockenheim around the outside, there's a dark blue dot way ahead of the Mercedes of Bottas, and that's Gasly, who leads the GP in a Toro Rosso Honda car. Then it's, like I said, Bottas, Verstappen, and then you've got this entire train ahead of us of the Renault, I think Fernando Alonso's McLaren, I want to say maybe a Force India as well. Clearly, I think both Force Indias actually of Ocon and Perez there. So familiar faces once again trying to re-overtake some of these guys. We go down the inside to Sainz for the first time in this Grand Prix to overtake him. And so those two are taken. And remember, actually, look on the top left. All these guys appear to be on soft tyres. I'm on hypers. I am on a tyre that is not 1, 2, I think 4 compounds softer than the softs, I'm correct. Because it goes soft, super soft, ultra, and hyper soft. So we're 4 levels up, or 3 levels up, or 4 jumps up from the soft tyre. So in theory, I really should be flying past these guys in the corners. I should have much better grip. They're fresh hyper softs. These guys have been going on their soft tyres for quite some time. And so with some pit stops there of that Force India of Ocon, we're up into now what is P6. Trying to get Fernando Alonso here for P5. Can't quite do it on the outside. So instead, I'll go around the outside. This is even more unorthodox of a place to make a pass than the outside the hairpin. Alonso is probably looking to the inside, waiting for me to make the dive there. I just didn't know, Sonny Jim. We're going to go the other way around. And so now we'll get on the back of Sergio Perez then for P4. This will be, I think he might even make a pit stop, maybe, along with his teammate Ocon. Yeah, he'll come in. So both Force Indias had to come in anyway. And so now we're back up into P4. And so the only cars ahead of us are those cars that were not going to make a pit stop in this Grand Prix. Bottas is in third place. Verstappen has overtaken Bottas. In the bottom right now, to even add more drama, you saw there a red rear wing. I've lost DRS. I got no DRS now for the rest of the Grand Prix. So you can see I'm within 1 second of Bottas here, but I've got no DRS to activate. So that's just going to add another complexity to this Grand Prix. Now Gasly makes a pit stop, and so that's really unfortunate, because that would have been amazing to see the Toro Rosso lead the Grand Prix to the end of this thing, but Gasly has to come in. He doesn't have the tyres to go to the distance, so it's Max Verstappen now that leads the Singapore Grand Prix. Valtteri Bottas in second place, myself in third, then you got Fernando Alonso in fourth place, then the 2 Renault cars. That is an insane top flight. I mean, ignoring obviously Red Bull and Mercedes isn't too crazy, but the fact that the Haas, McLaren and both Renaults are so far up, and at one point still, I can't quite believe me and Magnussen were actually leading the Grand Prix. And if it hadn't been for the safety car, I think we would have actually gone on to maybe win the race with a 1-2 maybe. You never know, but now we're on to lap 28, 3 laps to go. We've closed up to Valtteri Bottas, but the lack of DRS is really hurting me, because that's pretty much the only place I can make a pass here, because Bottas is doing so well in the corners. Obviously, even though the Merc has soft tyres on, the Merc downforce levels versus the Haas is obviously still huge. We've got a good chassis compared to Mercedes, but the chassis is only going to go so far to help you in the corners. At the end of the day, eventually you're just going to need pure downforce, which we still don't have as a team here. And the straight line speed, you saw at Monza how well Bottas got past Magnussen at the Italian Grand Prix, and me, I'm sitting here at the Singapore Grand Prix with a higher downforce setup than I had around there. So as Verstappen comes through to win this Singapore Grand Prix, then it's going to be a frustrating third place, which is really weird to say that I'm frustrated to get third place in a Haas. I should be absolutely thrilled, but remember, there was maybe a 1-2 in the card. But nonetheless, I've got to be happy. It is a podium here at the Singapore Grand Prix, and what a Grand Prix that was.
Great drive, great drive. We're really happy with that performance.
It was a magnificent race and a drive right out of the top draw to take the win for Red Bull today. So, Ash, how exactly did they set themselves apart from the pack today?
Well, the safety car completely changed the race, didn't it? It's hard to say exactly what would have happened without it, but there's no question that they came out of that situation in a good position.
And I can see now the drivers are making their way out. We need Red Bull fighting at the front. They do an incredible amount for Formula One. And that's another winner's trophy heading back to Milton Keynes.
I don't think that was quite a Hungarian Grand Prix levels, guys, but I think that was probably the closest we got to Hungary again. Probably the second best race we've had so far in this career mode season 1 for just absolute chaos and action there. Verstappen wins, Bottas third, myself in third place, Alonso then behind us ahead of Hockenheim. Gasly still split the Renaults with that pit stop, so Gasly's done really well on the Toro Rosso there. And you can see my teammate Magnussen actually ended up DNFing out of this Grand Prix. You saw he wasn't even in the top 12 page there. I can actually tell you he DNF'd. He retired, I think, as the chaos went on with Vettel's crash. He retired for a mechanical failure. I didn't, unfortunately, catch a replay of that because he was just somewhere else on the circuit that I couldn't quite see. But with that result, then, Mercedes climb up ahead of Ferrari in the constructors. We're still ahead of Red Bull, thankfully, despite Verstappen's win. But with Verstappen winning, Red Bull come a lot closer to us now in the constructors. And so with Alfa Magnussen DNFing, it means going to the next round, the pressure's on. We've only got now, what, about 5-6 episodes left of the season so far. And so, you know, we're still in the fight to try and keep third place from Red Bull. I think we can do it. We just need to not have another Grand Prix like this where one of our team members DNFs and the other, one of the other Red Bulls wins the Grand Prix. But obviously, it's not going to be a crazy race like this every single round. I mean, I wish it was, but it's not going to be. But yeah, I mean, I'm really appreciative of that Grand Prix because Singapore can sometimes be quite a bore fest, but that was definitely not one of them. But let's go into an interview then and see what Claire has to ask us.
Good day today. Tell us about it from your perspective.
It wasn't the cleanest race today, was it?
I assume Claire was going to maybe be talking about my little contact with Force India on lap 1, or maybe the chaos with Vettel. So I go with I'm an idiot magnet. That actually ends up being a negative rep for Mercedes, which was odd.
You scraped the walls a few times. Were you struggling for grip?
So I think that must have been maybe, I'm not too sure really, maybe something with Hamilton or Bottas maybe at the end of the Grand Prix. Maybe I got a little bit too close for comfort with him. And then obviously she asked me about scrapes on the wall. I decided to go with no comment. So once again, I'm going to leave her a little bit annoyed, unfortunately.
Well, thanks anyway.
But that's just the way it goes, really. And so now looking at the end of the teammate and the rival perspective, I've won my rivalry with S-Ben Ocon. At the moment, this third rivalry with Kevin Magnussen, we are drawing at the moment. Remember, K-Mag won his first rivalry with me. I then won the second, so now it's 1-1. And so with this third one, we're drawing at the moment. But we've beaten Ocon, and so that gets us a lot of respect. Remember, beating rivals gains you respect points on the rookie to veteran chart. It means you can basically vie for better contracts in the future, opens you up to do better, to doing better interview answers, and also just the rep with the teams as well. But as we go to the end of this episode then, we're going to purchase for the very first time a brakes update, an update that was not on F1 2017. So the first time we can upgrade the brakes on this game, which I'm assuming means we can brake a little bit later with higher pressures on the setup. I think that says on the description there. So that's a minor upgrade for the next episode. So that'll be really good to see if it really does make a difference. I can feel the difference in the braking power, in the stopping power with that update. And there's actually more brake updates to do as well. We can see we've got 3 upgrades on the go, engine and 2 chassis upgrades. The ultimate weight reduction, of course, is going to come at the Japanese Grand Prix. Can't wait for that. Our engine got a little bit worn around Singapore, but being Singapore, a street circuit, it was easy to kind of maintain that and kind of manage that, but we're going to have to look at that as well. But at the same time, I also want to be wary of starting to save points. I think one of you guys brought that up in the comment section last episode, that eventually I'm going to need to start saving resource points for the next season, because through the winter that's going to be important to spend points wisely. And then also if I need to rapidly spend points on round 1 of season 2, I'm going to need to think ahead of myself a little bit on that. So we'll kind of hold off a little bit on going crazy with all the upgrades in the world from now on, I think. But guys, if you did enjoy, it was a very, very hectic Singapore Grand Prix, hit that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're new around here, you can subscribe for weekly Formula content. I've been Aarava. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.